Hello, CHistrue here, and I'd like to tell you about a dream that I had relating to string theory and supersymmetry. It's more of actually a waking vision that happened during my meditation practice. So make of it what you will, physicists, make of it what you will. No equations, no experiments, just a dream, maybe just a dream. Psychologists, make of it what you will. Maybe I need to get out more, maybe I need to explore more, maybe I need to dress better, a better suit, whatever it is. Make of this what you will. Let's just get into it. I saw a helix, a helical DNA structure. Okay, one strand and then another strand. And then in the middle of the DNA structure, I saw a little micro-tubule, very, very thin tube, and in that tube there were bubbles. The bubbles were moving in the direction of the arrow of time. That was the arrow of time, these little bubbles moving. And in my mind's eye, I went into the tubule and followed along the bubbles. And now, I know for my regular viewers this is a little different. Okay, you're not used to CHistrue talking about dreams and visions or the rest of it. You're used to CHistrue talking about math proofs, philosophy, and talking in an academic, pedantic style, or at least pedantic. Okay, but you know this is something a little different. So I hope you'll bear with me. Continuing, I was in the tube and I was traveling with the bubbles, and then I entered into the bubble. And as I entered into the bubble, it was a Calabi-Yau space, a Calabi-Yau manifold. And just like you see on Wikipedia, you see the little colorful in 2 dimensions, what would actually be in higher dimensions. As I traveled into it, it was interesting because instead of 2001, instead of colors, instead of dancing lights, I saw very fuzzy shapes. It was just, they were almost like spheres within spheres. We couldn't make it out too well. It was fuzzy. It was interesting. That's maybe how you know that I'm not making this up, that I really had this, is I'm not going to embellish it and make it more colorful than it was. So I traveled along, and I traveled through the dimensions of space. In my mind's eye, I can't explain it too well, but it seemed like I was traveling, and then it did a 90-degree, but I was really going on a straight line. That was the odd thing about it. It wasn't, I think if I were making this up, I would embellish it, but that's what it was. And it wasn't, I didn't reach cosmic enlightenment or anything like that. It's just the way I saw it, okay? And as I traveled out into one of the external strands. And then I was still traveling along in the arrow of time. There was definitely the arrow of time, and I was traveling at, okay, here are the strands like this, like a DNA over here. And you can see how that goes. And the arrow of time would be moving along one of them, and then there's another arrow of time where that's paired to the other one. Just, again, like with DNA. And anyhow, I then traveled back through the same tunnel back into the micro-tubule, and then that's the end of the visual part. But there was interpretation coming in then into a little bit later on, where the vision or the dream, the waking dream, began to be interpreted as the micro-tubule was the quantum level. All right, so that was the quantum level of reality. And then the particular strand of the DNA that, and again, the helix, okay, it wasn't literally DNA, but it was a helix, okay, I'll call it the DNA. The particular strand of the, quote, DNA, end quote, but not literal DNA, just I'm using that as a metaphor. We'll call it the helix, okay. So anyways, moving along, that strand that I was in was our macroscopic universe. It was the universe of Newton. It was the universe of Einstein. It was the big universe, okay, the universe that we're certain about. And then the little microtubule in the middle of the helix, okay, it was in the middle of the helix between the 2 strands. So it was traveling right between the 2 strands. That was the quantum level. and the level of uncertainty. And the connection between the two was this Calabi-Yau manifold. Now, that is interesting because I don't necessarily say that this dream is literal, that this is literally a geometry dream. It might be that this strand is symbolism, okay, that it's not a spatial relationship. But again, in the dream, the little tubule was the quantum level, and then the outer strand that I was in was the macroscopic level. And the curious thing is, it seemed like the tubule was moving a little bit back and forth, but that just could be the blurry nature of a dream. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was necessarily dead right in the center. And our strand was paired to another strand. Now, interestingly enough, Lisa Randall has speculated that our brain has paired to another brain, and that there's an expansion and a contraction. Okay, and that explains the Big Bang. So that's kind of an M theory explanation of the Big Bang, which is interesting. Okay, because that dream seemed to have something like that in it, except they were paired helically. And yet, in the interpretation, that also seemed to represent an expansion and contraction. Now, how that would work, I'm not sure. How that would be reconciled with a helical shape, I'm not sure. I can kind of visualize it, but again, you have to think in more dimensions than just our three. And so, what makes sense in this vision is could maybe be questioned in our waking state. All right, so call it a vision, if you will, or just call it a dream. But I'll leave that to you. All right, at long last, here's the kicker, and that is, a lot of you know that there was a recent experiment seeming to cast doubt on supersymmetry. And if it cast doubt on supersymmetry, string theorists definitely would need to revise their stuff, okay? But the curious part is the sense that I got in this is that our universe, that this universe and its pair universe both shared the same quantum level. That there was again a DNA with a tubule going through it. That tubule was the quantum level for both our universe and that other universe, our brain and that other brain. Well, if we share the same quantum level, then it's at least possible that the particles would go to our universe, and the sparticles, the paired of our particles, would go to that other universe. Well, is it possible? I don't know. I'll leave that to the physicists. But that's the way it was in the vision, okay? You guys come up with the equations. I just come up with the cool dreams, okay? Anyways, deal, all right? That's why you're paid the big bucks. Anyways, so that would create an asymmetry, interestingly enough, that might, a gravitational asymmetry. I mean, I know that some say that dark matter might actually be the matter of another brain influencing ours. String theorists have speculated on that. And it also might explain why the little tubule wasn't set in the middle, why it was vibrating back and forth in a strange kind of way. It seemed closer to one side than the other. Again, I'll leave that to you. But in the vision, definitely, or the dream, or whatever you want to call it, the S particles went to the other universe. They were not coming to our universe. And if something like that were true, if the S particles were going to a parallel universe, not a parallel universe, excuse me, well, a paired universe, then indeed that would be consistent with the recent results, seeming to discredit supersymmetry, and supersymmetry would be back on track. Is it a dream? Is it a vision? Do I need to get out more? I will leave you with this one thought. Dismiss it as you will. Roger Penrose did seem to suggest that the quantum world of reality, or let's say that the world of mathematical Platonism, does interact with our world via some kind of quantum wormholes, and that our brains are not simply neurochemical, but that they contain a dimension or an element of this kind of quantum interface between the two worlds. I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'll leave that to you. I do know that this is CHistrue signing off. That much I do know.